Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Swaggy here. Today we're talking about the Minnesota Vikings 23-17 victory Sunday afternoon against the New York Jets. This game was all about defense. I don't know if I've seen Aaron Rodgers have this much trouble in a long time. 29 of 54 for just 244 yards, 3 picks, one of them was a pick 6, 2 touchdowns, sacked 3 times. All of the times as well that Rodgers had to just throw it into the ground because a play was blown up was just pretty wild to me. Also, Brian Flores deserves a lot of credit for the way he's able to send pressure, having his defensive backs fly off the edge. We also saw Harrison Phillips, of course, up front just win and have the easiest sack of his career. I mean, defensively, the Vikings are #1 in football right now. Denver's #2. I love watching both of these defenses compete, but the Vikings are just on a different level, and they've got a chance every single week to win, even if the offense is struggling, which I'm going to say it was. I mean, let's just be real here for a second. The Vikings offense, I didn't think played that well. The Jets have an elite defense, a very, very good defense, but I didn't think Sam Darnold looked very good in this game. Yes, he hit open throws. He made plays, especially late in this game, of course, to get that field goal, which was a huge cushion. I mean, if they don't score on that drive, who knows how this game goes. But there was just no rushing attack. Aaron Jones ended up leaving early with an injury. Ty Chandler lost a fumble. It was on a pitch when Mullins came in. That was bad. Myles Gaskin was called up from the practice squad. He only had 2 carries, though. Wasn't that much involved. Darnold was sacked 4 times. A couple of these guys, he had a man open, and he just held on to it. So I'm not saying I'm worried about Sam Darnold. I mean, he's still an MVP candidate. He's still a very, very good quarterback in this league, and he's going to tear it up. But this was just not his best game without question. The defense certainly won this one for the Jets, but that's the beauty of the Vikings, is when you have the best defense in football, you can win it all, because every single week you're going to give your team a chance, especially when you're putting up points on that side of the ball. Andrew Van Ginkel had another pick 6. Remember in week 1 in New York, MetLife Stadium in Jersey, he had a pick 6 off of Daniel Jones. I mean, Van Ginkel was a crazy pickup this offseason. It's still kind of wild to me that he was even available. I mean, he was one of the best players in all of football on the defensive side of the ball the second half of the season, and the Vikings end up bringing him in, of course, and Jonathan Grenard as well. I mean, both of those guys were just big-time pickups for Minnesota. They did lose Danielle Hunter, but they haven't missed him that much just because they're getting pressure from everyone to this point. It seems like every player that's starting has had a sack or more, right? This is how it feels. In terms of, we'll stick with the defense. I mean, the Jets go 14 for 36 on the ground, just non-existent, getting hit as soon as they touched it, just dominating up front. The Jets' offensive line has a lot of new faces on it, and the chemistry is not quite there. But I mean, they did have all of camp, preseason, and the first 4 games of this year, right, to get that figured out. And I mean, it just had no chance in this game against Minnesota. Rodgers was under a lot of pressure, and the only reason Rodgers even threw for 244 yards was because he was getting rid of it quickly. And even though Rodgers hasn't looked great this year, he's still smart. He's seen every coverage, just about every single blitz, so he knows where to go with it. But I mean, he was just struggling, man. I mean, if we're being real, the Jets lost this game because of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, how often does a team lose a game because of Aaron Rodgers? This was certainly one of them. The pick 6, trying to force the ball on his other 2 interceptions. Just not a great game. No run game. It's not all on Rodgers, but I mean, Garrett Wilson was essentially the Jets' entire offense. 101 of Rodgers' 244 yards came from Wilson, just all on quick passes too, and he sort of just gave his team a chance. He was phenomenal in this one. And in terms of anything else to say on the defense, not really too much. The scheme, it's just been very difficult to stop. We saw Brock Purdy go up to Flores after the Niners lost to the Vikings a couple of weeks ago and tell him that the scheme is crazy. I mean, quarterbacks just have not been able to figure it out. They've been struggling against the Vikings, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. In terms of the offense for the Vikings, Sam Darnold, 14 of 31 with a pick, 179 yards, was sacked 4 times. I think this was without question Darnold's worst game. He just held onto the ball too long. It's not that he missed open receivers, but he just wasn't able to connect on these deep shots. A lot of the plays as well were pass interferences or illegal contact or holding, which was able to set the Vikings up. But Darnold, not his best game, facing an elite defense. I'm not really too concerned with it, because if the Vikings had lost, maybe I'd be like feeling some type of way, but they didn't lose. So to me, it's kind of whatever. Just move on to the next game if I'm Sam Darnold. Nick Mullins came in at a 24-yard. It was a jump ball type of pass. to Aaron Jones, and he was tapping on his helmet, watch your head. That was probably my favorite play of this game. I mean, besides the pick six, but I mean, I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, so it kind of stung a little bit, but I was rooting for the Vikings without question. I'd love to see them go out and get a Super Bowl. I mean, they've got the craziest fans on YouTube right now. You guys are just blowing up all of our videos. Shout out to you guys, man. Skull. And my friend for sure is watching this from back home. He's a big Vikings fan, so shout out to him too. But in terms of the rushing attack, just non-existent. I mean, Ty Chandler, 14 of 30. He ended up losing that fumble on the pitch from Mullins. Not a great game for him. Aaron Jones, 7 of 29. Jones looked good in this game before the injury. If he hadn't gotten hurt, I think it would have been a different story, but he did get hurt. Darnold, 11 yards, of course, on 5 carries. I didn't watch the drive after the pick by Gilmore, so I'm going to imagine Darnold took a couple of knees, so like that's kind of skewed. But CJ Ham had a touchdown, 2 for 10. Good to see him, one of the better fullbacks we have. I mean, one of the only fullbacks. There's really teams don't carry fullbacks. The Niners, the Vikings, the Cowboys. I don't know. There's just not many teams that carry fullbacks. So to see Ham find the end zone is pretty crazy. Myles Gaskin elevated from the practice squad in this game, just 2 carries. He did have a catch for 11 yards as well. Justin Jefferson was amazing in this game. 6 for 92. Saw 14 targets. A lot of them were just Darnold trying to take a shot. He didn't really have a chance. Jefferson also drew, again, holds and pass interferences and illegal contacts. He was going up against Sauce Gardner, top 5 corner in my opinion in this league. He was also going up against DJ Reed, who's very good. And the Jets also have Michael Carter II, who just got an extension earlier in this offseason. He's very good. So one of the better secondaries in football, and Jefferson held his own. Jordan Addison, 3 for 36. Quiet game statistically. I thought he was open a couple of times on big plays, and Darnold just wasn't able to connect. That's the thing, is the Vikings could have scored a lot more points. They just didn't connect on some of these deep shots. Whenever you have Addison and Jefferson one-on-one, you want to capitalize on that more often than not, but they just couldn't. Johnny Munt, tight end, had 2 catches for 31 yards. Jones had that 24-yard catch. Gaskin 1 for 11. Ty Chandler 2 for 9. So just not a great game offensively for the Vikings. They won this game because of their defense, their special teams pinning the Jets back down in their territory, of course, making it tough. So shout out to that. Really outside of that, though, guys, it was just one of those games where you go up against a desperate Jets team that was coming off a loss to Denver at home. They go, technically in quotes, on the road, and it was a fun game. I mean, the Vikings just were up big, 17. They were up 17, and it looked like they were going to run away with this, but then the Jets all of a sudden at the end of the second half find the end zone to Allen Lazard, and then they start to gain some momentum, but the Jets just shut that off pretty quickly. The Vikings did. And yeah, just a good win, man. It was a good win for sure. I don't really care how they were able to win this game as long as they got it done, and they did. In terms of what's next for the Vikings, they're actually going to be on a bye, which is perfect because coming back from London, that jet lag, you don't want to be playing the Lions off of that. It's just absolute torture. So they have a bye week. They're at home against the Detroit Lions, at Los Angeles against the Rams, versus Indianapolis, at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, at Chicago. Schedule's really not that bad. It really isn't. I mean, coming into the year, we talked about this schedule is just absolutely brutal, but they've beaten the Niners, they've beaten the Texans, the Packers, the Jets. I mean, they're going to keep it up. I mean, we could be talking about the Vikings having one of the best records maybe ever. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to go 17-0, but 15-2, I don't even think that's a stretch. I just don't know if anybody can beat the Vikings right now with the way this defense is playing. I mean, Sam Darnold just wasn't very good. They couldn't run the ball, and they still won. So, and it was against one of the best rosters in terms of talent in football in the New York Jets on both sides. So, guys, if you're a Vikings fan, you got to be feeling great. You're 5-0, and the sky's the limit, man. I think the Vikings are going to do even bigger things this year. And coming off of that bye, they just need to clean up the fumbles. One bad thing for the Vikings, maybe the only bad thing, fumbling the damn football. They've got to clean that up, man. But bye.